An accident in the water cooling system at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, forced the company to call a general emergency and shut down part of the plant for an unspecified period.
The nuclear power plant accident happened on March 28, 1979. It occurred near Middletown, PA, and was the most serious accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant operating history. The accident began around 4 a.m. where the plant had the secondary section of the plant fail in the mechanical or electrical part, which didn't allow the main feed water pumps to send water to the steam generators. This then caused the turbine generators to shut down. This eventually caused a chain reaction of many other events that led to the water level in the pressure vessel dropping, which led to the core overheating. The Unit 2 reactor then partially melted down. Today, this shut-down nuclear power plant is now used as a tourist site. Some seem to love it, while others have no idea what the 3 Mile Island is. Using an event like this one is imperative when studying collective memory. Collective memories are reconstructions of the past, and they help us with current and future issues. I interviewed Marcia Turner, who was 12 when it happened, and Robert Turner, who was 9, who helped me understand how media affected people's memories of this accident.
Any media coverage at that time would have been on the television news. This probably classified as something that they would have interrupted regular broadcasting for.
Your typical newscast type presentation of the material, probably some video footage of the area, people talking about the accident.
And of course there would have been information on the radio, because that was definitely a news source for us in that time.
Even though the media maybe wasn't too remembered today, that media made an impact on the entire issue of nuclear power plants all across America. Media coverage of the accident and the protest movement highlighted anti-nuclear issues and pushed scientific and political discussions. Because of this, there has been no new nuclear power plants commissioned. Back in 1979, popular newspapers helped spread the news, but there were arguments about how the government may be controlling these articles.
Back then, probably didn't talk much about it. As a 9-year-old, it's not usually, nuclear reactors and accidents are not a hot topic conversation for 9-year-olds, so probably didn't even understand what was going on, so it wasn't really something talked about.
Again, since we didn't seem to have a lot of information. I mean, if I was 12 at the time, I was probably in 6th grade. It just wasn't talked about, and like I said, it might have been kind of hush-hush. I don't even remember talking about it with my friends, so I think they were trying to play it down.
There are little tidbits of information that are out there about, what safety protocols there should be around nuclear reactors and what went well, what went wrong versus, how was it contained. So talk about some of those things.
Upon researching this topic, I found a clip on YouTube of a compilation of reporters and experts making statements about the 3 Mile Island accident. These reporters and experts spoke about this event as if it was not a big deal and there were no medical issues, and some spoke about how dangerous it was and how some should evacuate or stay inside as much as possible. This event is called the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident. However, some of these people on the media said it was not a nuclear accident and everything was fine.
We do not refer to it as a nuclear accident because it was not that. And as I say, all these systems went into operation as they should have.
Some say it was not a normal accident and should be looked into regarding possible management failures. However, even more interesting were some of the comments on the video. Some state that the media seemed very ominous when speaking on this event, while others spoke about how they downplayed the effects and the people who lived there got terribly sick with cancer, lymphoma, and blood disorders. One goes on to say that the birds were scarce and to not believe these reporters, but believe the people who lived it. Obviously, this could be people who were making stuff up, but looking at this coverage, it seems to be a very large deal at the time, while today, most have not even heard of the 3 Mile Island. Throughout time, people now speak about this event with either a neutral or positive position on the matter. Instead of focusing on the negatives that happened in the moment, people now just remember the impact and the positive changes of it, or just speak on it like it's just another event that happened in history.
People definitely cared about this when it happened, and it's something, obviously, we followed the story because more information came out, I think, every day, as far as the seriousness of it and the effect of the leakage, just the science of it, just how far the effect could travel.
Words, I think, it was a nervous time when it was happening, but afterwards I don't think it was as severe an event as some people feared it might be. So, as time went by, it wasn't as big of a concern as it was at the time.
Even though these individuals may not have spoken about this event with others since they were so young, doesn't mean that the health effects and how the media portrayed that information didn't have any impact. At the beginning, there were plenty of scares.
Sounded like it was definitely a negative thing. I don't know that I would classify it as life-changing. It sounded like it was a little scary, but they also weren't giving us a lot of information.
The situation is more complex than the company first led us to believe.
We do have a new development. It is not clear yet the extent of this development. There was an uncontrolled release of radiation from the facility approximately 20 minutes ago.
We are advising the people on the basis of information and on the basis of a recommendation from the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that they simply ought to stay indoors as a precautionary measure, until they hear further word from us. It's that simple.
Yeah, a lot of people are leaving the Harrisburg area right now. My own family's on the way to New York City right now to stay with relatives. A lot of people, the gas stations are flooded, the banks were busy, people were withdrawing some of their money so they could get out of here.
However, through the NRC, Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Health, Education and Welfare, also known as the Health and Human Services, Department of Energy, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they discovered that during the accident, the 2 million people that were around this nuclear reactor only got about 1 millirem of radiation above the normal background dose. For example, a chest x-ray is about 6 millirem, and the average background dose for a year is about 100 to 125 millirem. Overall, through many questions and samples tested, it seemed to conclude that the accident did not seem to cause too many effects on one's health. Even if there was any, they could not be directly correlated to the accident.
Again, when it first happened, I was so young, and then afterwards, I think, it was a nervous time when it was happening, but afterwards I don't think it was as severe an event as some people feared it might be. So, as time went by, it wasn't as big of a concern as it was at the time.
Of course, many young individuals did not speak upon this event, but another reason why it's not talked about nationwide today is because the effect really was not as bad as people initially believed and how it was initially reported.
I do not remember talking about a greater effect than the Pennsylvania area. I don't remember any discussion about any kind of national effect that it would have.
The ultimate impact, as far as I understand, was not that severe, so probably wouldn't talk much about it at all, but probably would talk about how less severe it was relative to some of the other events that have happened since then.
Overall, media has drastically changed since 1979, but even back then, TV, radio, and the newspapers worked very hard to get information to the people. Back in 1979, many seemed to panic because there were so many unknowns about the consequences of this event. However, over time, people have changed their views on this event, especially the ones who were too young and far away for them to care. I think it's so important to note that I am a child of these two individuals interviewed, and even though they knew about this event and lived closer to it than most, the topic of the 3 Mile Island accident never came up in conversation. Both of these individuals would state that they don't remember anything about it, and I would know more about a closer event like the Challenger explosion. However, those two statements are telling. They show us that if the media did a good job at educating the public, it also shows if the event was worthy enough to remember deeply. For example, the assassination of JFK. Everyone knows it, and many people have even seen his assassination. That happened in 1963, where media was not as developed as in 1979. However, this was a huge deal because he was a beloved president. Media has a lot of power, it's just a matter of what the event is.
Well, I imagine probably wouldn't maybe even have heard about it, if it, anything about it, unless there was for the media. You know, getting information through television and through the newspaper was probably the only way we would probably even hear about something that was, you know, not in my own neighborhood. Certainly, as getting older and learning about it, you know, it's been more, you know, having the internet and just looking back at the event and what's been documented about it has certainly increased, you know, my knowledge of it now than it was back then.
Now, obviously today that's completely different, and just the access to the information on the web, 24-hour news stations, all of that. There's a whole lot more access to the information and news stories today.